Industrialization and fast-paced development are continuing a 40-year expansion trend in the Asian sector of the Pacific Rim. In California, robust international trade continues to power the engine of the state's economy. Southern California's ports handle steady growth in goods movement. World trade generates about 320,000 jobs for California. In the Southland, trade affects 1 of every 7 jobs. Cargo is the lifeblood of the region. The ports form the heart, which pumps the supply of goods through the arteries of freeways, highways, and rail lines. Population and employment in California continue to increase, providing a growing demand for more consumer goods. Shifting manufacturing patterns indicate that future U.S. demand for Asian manufactured goods will increase exponentially. Already, Southern California's ports process 40% of the ocean-borne cargo bound for the United States.
In terms of the U.S., the trade shifted from the East Coast to the West Coast. And of course that made a lot of sense because of the tremendous growth of nations along our Pacific Rim, and we really are the entry ports, the 2 ports of the San Pedro Bay.
The figures that are cited is about 50% of the goods stay here, about 50% of the goods leave the region. It's nice to have these goods coming into the region, and if they're coming in through the port, it's clearly cheaper to get them here than if they're coming in through East Coast.
However, growth in population, employment, and trade places additional burdens on Southern California's fragile infrastructure. Residual effects include threats to the environment and quality of life. Congestion and air pollution pose the greatest problems. Community and environmental groups claim the ports and the trucks hauling containers exacerbate the already difficult living conditions in and around coastal cities and throughout the Southland. Taken to their logical conclusion, these claims might lead to restrictions on trade growth.
We're talking about tripling the growth. What are we doing to make sure that we do not increase the emissions that are being breathed by people here? The mayor of Los Angeles, my brother, has declared that there will be no net increase in emissions as a result of port growth. So that's a pretty tough mandate. That's a pretty tough promise. So we need to know what we're doing to make sure that we don't increase air pollution in this region.
Ultimately, the region is confronted with a difficult choice: restrict growth at the ports or accept growth and deal with the problems it creates. The choice to restrict growth could likely lead to negative economic consequences. Consumer prices will rise if shortages of vital goods occur and delivery costs increase. In the short term, jobs may be lost from the California transportation and supply chain. Some business leaders suggest a downward spiral could occur, with businesses relocating outside of the area to avoid restrictions and higher costs. Trucking companies, warehouses, and ports located outside the region would be positioned to pick up any diverted cargo. As a result, these outside interests would stand to benefit financially.
In terms of sort of an economic benefit-cost calculus, the benefits are diffused to a much larger area, and oftentimes the costs are localized to a well-defined area. And so in a place like Long Beach, and you can look at the pollution maps generated by the AQMD just as well as I can, you can see that we're probably bearing a much greater share of the air pollution that's associated with the transportation sector, simply because of the very nature of the way business is done.
The other choice, to accept growth, will definitely benefit the local economy. It will keep consumers supplied with the goods they demand at competitive prices. Concerns about congestion and pollution are legitimate and must be addressed. With planning and foresight, investment, and the introduction of new technologies, the environmental impact of greater port traffic and goods movement can be mitigated. Quality of life can be preserved and possibly even improved if all stakeholders contribute to the effort.
Just by the nature of goods movement, we do have impacts. But there's a lot of things that we can do to minimize those. Certainly there's no reason to have bad water quality as a result of the movement of vessels in and out. There's just no reason to have that, and I think it can be achieved. Same with air quality. Air quality is a little bit tougher because you still, even in the best case, if we can get down the emissions to the targets that we want right now, we're still going to have residual air quality emissions. So we have to grapple with just how much is acceptable. But we certainly have areas where we can reduce significantly, and that's our goal right now.
Port authorities, shipping companies, terminal operators, trucking companies, labor unions, rail operators, local politicians, community groups, warehouse operators, and retailers. All of these groups must contribute, all must cooperate, and all may be faced with some compromises. Indeed, success already has occurred in some areas. One example, over the last 30 years, better technology, regulations, and environmental consciousness have contributed to much cleaner water in and around harbor facilities. 2 studies show that water quality and the number of fish and marine life populating these locations has improved and increased substantially.
I think historically too, the harbor has seen a lot of improvement. We can see that not only in our monitoring of the water quality, but also in the habitat here at the port. We find that eelgrass has grown up here in the port, which requires fairly transparent waters. And so we have eelgrass beds expanding. We have kelp beds in the harbor. Our lease turn site was number 2 in the state last year. We had over 900 nests, and so we see a lot of things, a lot of evidence that the harbor water and the habitat here is really doing well.
Other successes are beginning to occur in the reduction of diesel truck engine idling at marine terminals. New regulations impose fines on trucks that idle more than 30 minutes outside marine terminal gates. These regulations motivated marine terminal operators, trucking companies, steamship lines, and other industry stakeholders to form a working group under the leadership of the AQMD. The marine terminals and trucking industry have made significant improvements concerning truck delays outside marine terminal gates. An ongoing effort by Mattel to deliver goods to warehouses at alternative hours increased throughput and improved turnaround at the warehouses.
Now there's a lot more people talking to each other. And the Lowenthal bill, in conjunction with all the controversy over expanding the 710, has now really, I think, made people who are interested in moving freight understand that they need to get more actively involved. The community is more than happy to get actively involved to say, we don't want to expand the 710, or we're not happy with what's going on at the ports environmentally or with respect to safety or traffic congestion. And the shippers and receivers, not just the terminal companies and the trucking companies, but the shippers and receivers also have to get involved. Even if they're not located in Long Beach or LA, if they're bringing goods through these ports, they need to be actively involved in these political decisions that are being made.
Regulations involving the use of alternative and special cleaner fuels for diesel trucks and yard equipment should reduce harmful diesel emissions. A move to cleaner alternative fuels for some yard equipment is already occurring. A concerted effort spearheaded by the Gateway City's Council of Governments is replacing older, more polluting trucks manufactured before 1984 with newer, cleaner burning models built after 1993.
Basically buy a new one and scrap the old one. It's a great program. We're hoping they get more money. We're working with them to try and get more money into that program and keep it going. There's, I think, somewhat 6,000 odd trucks out there that are in that inventory that we like to take off the road and replace with newer, less polluting trucks.
It helps to keep the air clean. That's the main thing in this program, to helping to keep the air clean around. The benefits are less breakdown. If you don't break down, you're not jamming on the freeways. Better fuel mileage. It's saving a lot of fuel. It's hard to buy a fuel right now, especially for the owner-operators. You feel safe in this truck. Everything is working good. So thanks to the program, I got to pay just a small amount. The old truck was, you start out smoking like smoking men, old men.
More use of rail and the Alameda Corridor to send goods eastward from downtown Los Angeles reduces the number of trucks inside marine terminals and on freeways and roads. Continued investment and rebuilding the transfer facilities are key to this positive development. The introduction of new tracking devices and seals on containers will be required by the Federal Department of Homeland Security. Originally intended for enhancing the secure tracking of cargo, a side benefit will be the rapid, highly efficient movement of containers throughout the port via greater information automation.
I think it's really important to understand too that a strong economy and environment go hand in hand. I have visited, for instance, and traveled through Mexico with many of the ports there and talked to them about some of our programs, and their problem has always been that those are very lovely programs for you to have, but we just can't afford to do them. And so there is a very strong nexus between economic vitality and having progressive environmental programs, and I think that's where the U.S. is really strong.
The future of shipping may include converting to shoreside powering or cold ironing for ships that have been specially prepared. These ships would turn off diesel engines and plug into local power while docking and unloading containers. Retrofitting old ships and outfitting new ships with the appropriate equipment is required for this procedure.
I am optimistic about the future. We can have a port complex that between this complex and our airport, we account for 1/3 of the trade in the country. You're going to have a port complex that continues to grow, and you're going to have communities that are not going to suffer their quality of life. I believe you can have both. I think we will have both. I think we're on the way to having both.
Community groups, politicians, municipalities, and other interested parties are justified in expressing their concerns about effects on quality of life. The best solution would include these groups working cooperatively with industry to embrace new technologies and new procedures. The goal for all stakeholders should be to join together to mitigate environmental impacts while preserving the jobs and economic prosperity that enhance the quality of life in Southern California.